Let's get the view from Poland, because I have a chance to speak to George Byczynski. He is a Polish journalist who is based in London, Warsaw and here in Brussels, about what his sense is of the Polish response to this crisis. Of course, they have welcomed more refugees than any other country in Europe. They have also helped militarily Ukraine out a hell of a lot, frankly. They very much are on the front line to a large degree when it comes to the Western support for Ukraine in this war with Russia. And I began by asking him about the number of refugees and the impact that was having on Polish society.
There is indeed a certain affinity with the Ukrainians. They're similar to us. They look just like us. Therefore, it's easier to just support a neighbor in need. But it's not that. Poland, throughout various conflicts around the world, has helped refugees, whether they were Jews during the Second World War that were haunted by the Nazis, just as Ukrainians today are fleeing Ukraine because of the Russian invasion. The Ukrainians are all over every single Polish cities. Wherever you go, you hear Ukrainian or you hear Russian. This solidarity comes from our hearts. I spoke to a priest the other day and he said, Poles, we're mostly Catholics and we have to seek help and we have to give help to all those that are in need.
Many would say, though, that didn't happen when it came to Syrians, for example, or Afghans or Iraqis.
When one looks at what Belarus tried to do just last year, they got economic migrants from around the world. Those people very often paid tens of thousands of euros to smugglers. Then mostly able-bodied men were pushing the border illegally. That's very different to the situation that we have right now at the Polish border. These are mostly women, children. They're all going through the gate legally and asking for either refuge or to just stay in Poland for some time. So it's almost incomparable.
Let's move on to the politics of this. There seems to be a bit of a divide in the kind of Visegrád group, isn't there, to a degree? Hungary not quite as belligerent in some ways when it comes to sanctions and military aid as the Poles. Is that a fair assessment?
Unfortunately, Hungarians throughout centuries, they enjoyed that neutral political statement. It is to some extent slightly disappointing because we need unity now. We need strong statements sent to Russia for what they're doing. Hungarians are helping, but they're also playing their political game. I do think that the Visegrád can count on each other. All the countries are actually speaking together. Just recently, the Visegrád countries visited Boris Johnson to London and we spoke in one voice. We may have some differences, but on this we are united.
Just in regards to doing more, there is a sense that Poland does want, particularly Western European countries, to do more, like Germany and France.
Yes, I spoke to the Polish Deputy Prime Minister. He said he's disappointed with the European Union. Poland just took in over 2 million refugees. That's more than any other conflict since the Second World War, that at least in our European continent. It's incredible. And how much help are we getting from the EU? Not much. There are sanctions, great. There is humanitarian support, it's coming. But as you may have seen here in Brussels, there were some people from the German delegations that tried to delay those sanctions. We need unity right now, and Poland needs help. And can you imagine, I spoke to another politician who told me that when they asked for cash from the EU, which is cash belonging to the European people because we are paying that in taxes, when they asked for that aid from the EU, they just said, oh, you need to file an application in a few months' time, maybe you will get it. Ukraine needs help right now, and so does Poland, because we're accepting so many refugees.
And just very finally, in terms of the military effort, does Poland want to see NATO go further? We've had a meeting today of NATO leaders. I mean, there is still no sense of a no-fly zone. Some countries not actually donating much military aid. Is Poland looking for further action from NATO, even if that risks intensifying things?
Look, we need to do everything possible not to intensify things and not to cause the Third World War. That's very important. But we need to also understand what Putin's language is. He only understands strength. If we will be weak, if we will keep on talking about the threats from Russia and the threat of a war, he will see this as a weakness, use it against us. He will push, take over not just half of Ukraine, maybe the whole country. There are also other countries like Moldova that are threatened by Putin at the moment. We need to show that forward present. NATO needs to do more. Of course, we should not get into a conflict with Russia. That would be a threat to our civilization and to the whole continent. But at the moment, Ukraine is fighting for Europe, and we need to do everything possible to help them.